Totally. Yeah. My name is Lindsey Rae. My pronouns are she and they. I use both. Use whichever one you want, or use both. My business, I have two businesses actually, but my Pilates business is Radical Movement Pilates. It's an online teaching platform where I teach,
Hmm.
and part of my business is to engage in mutual aid. So I contribute a portion of my funds to different mutual aid projects. And yeah, and I also have a tea business called Lucid Tea that I have with my
Oh,
sister.
oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, let's talk about tea.
Okay, sure, sure. Yeah, I'm into that.
Yes.
Do you
So
drink tea?
I love tea. I love different types of tea. There's different characters to it. There's different stories. Like I on a side note, I like rum as well. I collect rums from different islands because
Sure,
every island has a story, every rum has a story. And the same with tea, right? Like every tea has a story,
totally.
every origin has a story. So yeah, tell me
Yeah,
about your
yeah.
tea biz.
Sure. And we have to come back to High on the Hog, by the way. Um,
Yes,
when you
absolutely.
said that, I was like, oh my gosh, everything is meant to be this morning. Yeah, before I did Pilates, I worked in the tea business and worked for a big corporation, um, and learned a lot about tea and traveled and trained people across the country and across the world. Eventually moved to Dubai, and
What?
worked
Nice.
there. Yeah, and then when I moved back from Dubai, my sister was like, if you could do anything in the world, what would you want to do? And I said, start my own tea company. And she said, okay, let's do it. And so we did. And so I traveled to Japan and Sri Lanka to source the teas and met the folks who grow it. And I have unflavored teas and blends that I have created. So, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. What kind of tea do you like?
I'm a green tea kind of guy.
Yeah.
I like green teas, I like white teas, I like mint teas. I'm not a big fan of black teas.
Okay.
So anything in that kind of family of green teas are my jam.
Cool. Do you drink matcha?
Love
Controversial.
matcha.
Great. Okay, I'm sending you some tea.
Well, so back up. Why is that controversial? Thank you, but like, why is it controversial?
I don't know. I feel like it's kind of one of those polarizing things that like,
Really?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's very popular now, but like when I was working and interacting with, the general public all the time in a mall, people would be like, "Ew, matcha." But I love it. I'm drinking it
Just
right now.
yeah.
Dad goals, El Rey Dad goals.
Yes.
Um, uh, question. Tell me about dad goals. Um, is this like an inside thing or like it is what it is?
It's I wish there was a deep philosophy. It was just a cup that my kids gave me for Father's Day one year.
Okay.
And I have this thing about redeeming words, right? Like we talk about dad bod or dad this or dad that. So um, the mindset of, I'm making this up on the spot, the mindset of a dad or being a man or masculine has been shifted so much over the years that I just like to think that when I'm saying dad goals and how I define being a father should be the goal that I'm aspiring to. And it's not about making so much money that my kids don't know me because I'm working 60 hours a week, or that I'm telling my boys that they're not supposed to cry because men don't cry. Like, you know what I mean? Like all that
Sure.
stuff, that anything that became like a negative spin, I'm like, I want to redeem all those things so that we as dads are aspiring to what a real dad should be doing and however you define that. So
That's
there.
great.
I've never said that before, so maybe I'll repost that later.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Good on the spot answer.
Thank you. Well, when it's in you, right? Like, I mean, like, there's so many things that we're passionate about that it should just come out of us,
Sure.
because we're
Yeah,
living it.
absolutely.
So what do you do with your tea business? Like, I'm fascinated about business in general, right? Like, we're in a plotty space, but there's other things that we're passionate about. So when those things have expression, I'm like, oh, tell me more.
Yeah, well, we sell our tea online and we sell it wholesale. So different stores carry it or, a restaurant carries it. So yeah, but to be honest, over the past, like kind of right when we started the tea business, actually, my mom got sick.
Mm.
And so between teaching Pilates and caring for our mom, the tea business maybe doesn't necessarily get all the love that I want to give it and energy that I want to give it, but
Yes.
I do love it.
Yes.
And I am passionate about it. So yeah, so if anybody
Hmm.
wants to support, we sell it online at lovelucidtea.com and
Amazing.
you can buy delicious teas.
Can you put that in the comment section, please, so people
Yeah,
can look up?
yeah, totally, totally, totally.
Yes, it's coming. Joel's like, I need that website. That's
Great,
awesome.
great. And as I do this, I just want to echo what Joel was saying about how like powerful and amazing High on the Hog is. Like you
Mm,
said, like total tearjerker and so compelling. I haven't watched all of it yet,
yeah.
um, but as someone who has lived in the South for almost all my life and living in Nashville for so long and seeing kind of how um, Southern cuisine has become like commodified and turned into this like,
Yes. Trendy.
fancy, yeah, very trendy thing. And it's like, well, let's unpack that.
Yes.
Let's
Yeah.
see, the fancy collard greens that you're eating, like, or the okra that you're eating, like
Mm,
where did that come from, So
yes.
it is one of the best things that I've watched in a while.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, I think
We
so.
we just watched 2 episodes and we're just like,
Yeah.
okay, I need to go to sleep, but this is I could have binged watched that.
Totally.
And we're saying in a way, and it's funny interacting with Joel a lot here is that in a certain sort of way, it's almost like the Marvel movie like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where you think you're gonna be watching one thing and then they slide in these messages that
Yes.
are uncomfortable if you're uncomfortable with it, but inspiring if you didn't know that it was there.
Yes.
And the show's powerful in that way. And yeah, it
Agreed.
has me like somber this morning in many ways, so reflective in many ways.
Yeah. Yeah. It is definitely a heavy watch, but 1,000% necessary for everyone who eats food. I think everyone
Yes,
should watch it. It's amazing.
it's true. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I have a question.
Yes, I love
If you
questions.
if you could only choose one type of cuisine to eat for the rest of your life, like every day,
Yeah.
what would you choose?
I'm biased. My parents are from Jamaica, so I would
Mm,
be inclined to West Indian cuisine. You know,
okay.
yeah. So there's a lot, and there's stuff that's uniquely Jamaican, but just the whole Caribbean have so many different unique foods that are very like the same food with a different name based on where you are. So I would have to say West Indian cuisine for sure.
Mm, yum,
Yeah,
yum.
yeah. And you?
Oh gosh, that's really tough. But always my go-to is Ethiopian food. I think Ethiopian food and Indian food are like it would be hard for me to choose, but
Yeah,
Ethiopian
it's
food is like my ultimate comfort food. That's not
yes,
like, prepared by my mother or whatever,
right. Yeah,
So yeah.
yes. Um, don't ask me what my last meal would be. That's completely different. It's like
No, 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 no. Different question,
different
and we
question.
we d- we don't have to answer that.
I can answer it. It's just like it's no. Mine would be. You ready for
Okay.
this?
Sure,
I'll give it
yeah.
to you. Krispy Kreme donuts.
What?
coming off the conveyor belt
Okay.
into my mouth.
Wow.
That would be
Okay.
it. Krispy
Oh,
Kreme donuts.
I like that. I like that move. Yeah. Hot.
Hot. Light on.
The neon light
It's
flashing.
got to be that neon light.
Is there Krispy Kreme up
There's one location. There is
there? Okay.
actually, I think, maybe two locations, and one of them is too close to my house, but I don't go there often. Like that's like a maybe birthday once a year thing.
Okay. Y'all
Maybe.
have Tim Hortons is
Yep.
the vibe. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, so just like original glazed
The
or
original glaze. Got to go
okay.
OG.
Okay.
Yep.
Fair enough. Fair
Yep.
enough. It wouldn't that wouldn't be my last choice, but if it was, I think I would have to get a chocolate glaze. I like
Oh
my
yeah.
chocolate glaze.
Nice.
Yeah, or ice. Yeah.
We're so far off the flies path, but what would be your final food?
Yeah. Martin, we are whole people talking about our whole lives. So
Thank you.
I am not worried about it. I am not worried about it. In fact, it's fine with me if we do just sit here and talk about food.
Yeah.
We definitely don't have to, but it would be okay with me.
Yeah. Yeah. The yeah, one last thing on that high on the hog. That line
Mm,
that she said about it is in the marrow of your bones hit me so hard. I've
yeah.
never like that imagery and just the power of that phraseology. Just I wrote it down. I'm like, I'm gonna use that all the time for everything because that is
Yeah. Was that in the moment when they were in Benin?
yes,
Not spoiler alert, but and
yes,
they were together. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, gosh. That was yeah, so powerful and so moving. Yeah, watch it, everyone, please.
Yes, please watch it. Yes. Well, yes, we'll unpack it. I'll see if I can get that the gentleman who runs does a show on here. That would be
Yeah,
amazing. I'll reach out to
yeah,
him.
1,000%.
It'd be so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, that's a good moment. Yes. So Pilates.
Pilates, yes.
Let's talk about Pilates. How did you find Pilates?
Okay, cool. How did I find Pilates? I kind of two ways. My sister has been doing Pilates for a lot longer than I have, and um, being the older and wiser sister, she, would say like, "Wow, Pilates is really great," and I being the younger sibling, like, whatever.
Right.
Not my gig. I'm not into that. Um, but when I was living in Dubai, I started pole dancing to make friends,
Hmm.
like you do.
Right.
Um, and, so living in Dubai, I didn't have a ton of friends. I was working 6 days a week, and I wanted an extracurricular activity, and so I was like, "Ooh, aerial silk seems cool." But
Yes.
at that time, I couldn't find a class, and I found a pole dancing class, and so I was
Mhm.
like, "Cool,
Yeah.
I'll take a pole dancing class." So I started pole, and which kind of led me into working on my flexibility and all these other things that are come along with
Like
aerial training.
the hand balancing and all of those type of workshops and stuff.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so I was in a workshop. I was in a contortion private with the amazing Christina Nakaya. And I said, if you could tell someone one thing to do, which is like, come on, but if you could tell somebody one thing to do to improve their flexibility, what would you tell them? And she said, like, without batting an eye, she said, Pilates. And I was
Hmm.
like, oh, I guess my sister's right.
Did you actually give her that, or did you like?
Yeah, of course, of course, of course. So, Mitzi, you of course were right. And
Okay.
so
Nicely done. That was classy.
yeah, yes.
Yes.
And so, shortly after that private with the contortion coach, Christina, I took a reformer class. And I like after I was done, I was like, okay,
I'm
that's
in.
it. I'm like, pass me the Kool-Aid, and I am like totally sold. Like I'm here. Maybe that is not a great
You got that too,
thing
right?
to use
I follow you.
anymore, but like
Yes.
I'm all in. I'm
Yeah.
all in, like I do.
Yes.
And yeah, like I I started taking it, and then I was like, I want to teach this because I had already been teaching pole and uh, suspension training and aerial hammock
Yes.
and flexibility and stuff. And so I had been teaching, and then I was just like, wow, I really love this. I want to
Mm,
teach this. And so my sister was like, okay, cool. Like, what do we do? And
right.
so I started teacher training, and here we are.
Nice. Which
Yeah.
teacher training did you do? Just
Balance
like a,
body,
oh, bounce
comprehensive.
party? Oh, very cool.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, so from there, have you taken any other courses in terms of like other teaching modal, other, what's the word I'm looking for? Other different
Like
lineages and different modalities?
certifications.
Yeah,
Yeah.
certifications, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's a no
I've
judgment question. Just so curious because I just like I like to hear who we've all learned from. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's see. I did my comprehensive through Balance Body. I did pre and postnatal with East River Pilates. Shout out to East
Hmm.
River Pilates, where I also teach online. Um, and I've done trauma informed Pilates approach. I've done
Amazing.
an adaptive and inclusive trainer program through the Adaptive Training Academy. I've done aerial hoop certification. Um, what else? My mentorship with Sonia, one of my favorite people in the world.
Yes.
And, you know, I've done like science-based workshops and Pilates for all bodies, kind of
Very
size
cool.
inclusive stuff. So,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
love it. That's the reason why I asked you to do that is simply because it's always fascinating to me to hear what is in people's toolbox,
sure.
right? When you hear that, it's like, okay, these are her areas of passion, these are areas of expertise, and there may be other things too, but like I didn't hear Olympic lifting, or I didn't hear, right? You know what I mean? Like, because like those are great things too.
Of
Like they,
course.
in the sense of like applies instructors who learn squats and deadlifts so they can understand glute activation for the soccer player who comes in to do Pilates with you, whatever. So those are just fascinating. I love just hearing what is in your toolbox. What have you learned? Where are you focusing your learning in this season? Because the next season may be something different.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I started with the focus on the aerial stuff and like exercise and movement that I find fun, that I enjoy.
Yes.
I was very awkward as a kid. I was always picked last, you know, all of that. Like I was never athletic as a kid, but I always enjoyed dancing. And by I hated dance class because I didn't have a great teacher who inspired me.
Inspired
So,
you to, yeah.
yeah. So my teacher was Janet Jackson. So I would, you know, dance to Paula Abdul and Janet Jackson in my
Yes.
garage. And like
Right.
that was like where
She
I
came
was the
over? No, I'm
happiest.
just kidding.
Yeah, no, we were best friends. I
Right.
wish. Oh my God. But that was like my first, when I was a kid, my first memory of what do you want to be when you grow up? Was not, oh, I want to be a famous rock star. No, I want to be Janet Jackson's backup dancer. So, yeah, so finding like fun ways to work out has been life changing for me. And I didn't discover
Absolutely.
that until, you know, like 8 years ago. And Pilates has just continued that for me. I find it enjoyable, but I thought, you know, before when I was doing pole dancing, I was like, oh, Pilates seems really boring. You know,
Mm.
there's no like moody lighting. There's no like music that's gonna inspire me, which, you know, all of that was just beliefs that
In
I
your head.
had,
Right.
obviously, right?
Yes.
But Pilates, everything is Pilates, and Pilates is everything. So, you know, you make it what
That's
you want it to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's a great lens. That's a great way to bring it to people because then you are going to speak to people who have that same mindset, and you're going to dispel that myth and welcome them into that world in such a fun,
totally.
different way than I would, right? Like, I mean, then someone else would who has different points of emphasis with their work. So,
Yeah, and that's
yeah.
that's kind of like you were asking like who is your ideal client? Like
Hmm.
I guess that's kind of who my ideal client is maybe someone who doesn't feel comfortable in their body or doesn't feel comfortable moving or like it's like, oh, I don't know if I feel great about this. Like I want to be the person that can help them like feel like disarmed maybe or just like
Yes.
it's cool like like you
Hmm.
said it is more serious like Pilates is not just Pilates but at the same time it is just Pilates
Yes.
it's both
It's
so it's
both,
like
right?
you don't have to thanks for the tins Michelle
Yes. I know.
um, hi Michelle by the way I'm so
Hmm.
excited but it you don't have to put pressure on yourself to be perfect or get something right the first time or look a certain way or whatever. It's like, you know, find the joy in like A, moving your body, B,
Yes.
like learning something new, and
Yes.
C, like hanging out with other people and like figuring it out together.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Disarmed. I did a boot camp.
Hi, Tasha. Sorry.
She's great. She's yeah, we were talking about her earlier about the with the group with Brenda and stuff. It was actually
I know Tasha from my previous tea life. Tasha would
really
drive, yes, I hope Tasha doesn't mind me saying this. Tasha would drive from Huntsville to Nashville to buy tea. And that is how I met her. And
wow.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's really cool to like see her again and she's in my new life. It's not a new life to her because she's been doing what she's been doing for a long time. But
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. So love Tasha.
Awesome. I know, right? Michelle, I'm like, wow, it's
Small world.
small world.
Yeah.
I forget my point now. I was gonna say
Sorry. Oh, you said you were teaching a workshop, maybe?
boot camp. Oh yes,
Boot
talk
camp.
about
Boot camp.
disheartening boot camp. So I had this. I set up a new boot camp just in my area, straight, just serving my community. This is how much it costs. This is where it is. These are the days. Let me know if you're in or not. Boom. Tuesdays, 4 weeks out. And someone was asking me like, well, is it really hard? I used to do all these Tabata classes and just these pound and workout sort of thing. And, and shout out to your oolong tea.
Thanks. Yay.
Hmm. So yeah, so someone's saying, well, was the class really really hard? And I said, well, I had people who were like really fit, a husband and wife, and they would sprint everything, and then someone who was basically a new exerciser, so I hadn't done anything. And I love the fact that I was able to create this space where at the end of the class, this is a win for me. When the gentleman comes up and he says, that was a good workout. Thanks for doing this. I'll see you next week. That was really hard. I didn't think that exercise was going to be that tough. Cool, bye. And then this lady comes up and she was like, I haven't moved basically in 18 months, and I was surprised that I got through that. That was actually really fun. I'm shocked that I finished it. Like I was really pleasantly
Yeah,
surprised that I could do it thanks to the class. And I was like, that's what I wanted to hear. Like, I mean, I could
totally.
crush a guy any day I want in a workout, but if someone could come in, feel a good workout at the same time, this person over here could be happy that they accomplished the workout.
Yes.
That's what I think that we have got to, that's where I think we need to get to with our Pilates, with our movement practice for others when we're bringing it out there.
Agree. Very agree. And I think it has a lot to do with obviously who is represented in Pilates or what people, what type of body, like who do you think of when you say Pilates? Like, what is the first thing that comes to mind? Or if you Google like Pilates instructor, like whose photos might come up? And I think the more people who do Pilates that maybe don't fit the ideal, and move because it makes them feel good and they want to have fun and be in community. That's what we want to do. Like, we don't want to continue to perpetuate like unrealistic ideal body standards,
Right.
unsustainable fitness practices where it's like no days off, or
Hmm.
whatever the
Right.
dogma is. Like, that's not realistic. It's not necessarily healthy, and it's not effective at the end of the day, too. It's
Right.
like,
Right.
you know, we all have to take time to rest, take care of ourselves, and approach movement in the way that works best for us.
That's the key right there. And we forget about that last piece about what works best for us, and we impose our ideals.
Yes.
And the other part to that too is just when we have our own egos in the way and think that we have to be all things to all people.
Yes.
That's the other part of it too, where now it's like, okay, well, this person comes in, that might not be my area of expertise. We can explore this, and I can make my mistakes, and I can research stuff and help you. But this person down the street is amazing at this. This is their place. This is where they can help you best. And I
Yeah.
think the more that we learn who we are, and we do that well, and let people know that that's what we do, and that's who we want to accommodate in that way, and everyone's doing that, and then we fill those gaps in a greater way.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like embracing the idea of interdependence and community as like an
Community.
industry as a
Yes.
whole.
Yes.
And it's something that I wish that you would have told me 5 years ago when I started, Martin. Like, you don't have to be all things to all people. And when you go through teacher training, it's like, okay, here's a like set of pathologies that Pilates
Mhm.
wants to focus on, and you have to know all of these things, and also not necessarily learn about other important things like the soft skills or like trauma informed approach or
Right.
stuff like that. It's like, I wish I would have known and had that like idea of like, I don't have to know everything right now, and I don't have to be everything to everybody, and I can like stay in my lane, because I think that's what can make new Pilates instructors feel burnt out,
Right.
because you just like, want to help everybody.
Mm. Yeah, that's oh yeah, for sure. I felt like that. And that's I mean at the same time it has to be said that like understanding a baseline for those things because like Joseph Pilates believed that Pilates was the be all end all can help everyone and save the world. And I'm not taking away from that, but I like giving room for specialties. I like giving room
Sure.
for expertise in certain things. And if you want to use an analogy, we're all like general practitioner doctors, right? So I mean, like I'm not a heart surgeon, but when you
Right.
come into my practice, I can recognize that you need a surgeon at this point. So
Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
yeah. So I don't know. That's I think about it from that perspective, and then also like you're saying, when it comes to inclusion and diversity and all these other angles, it's I've been musing on that a lot this week. Obviously, with a lot of even with Juneteenth, we think about Black people, we think about people of color, but diversity is even more diverse than that, right? Like,
Totally.
right? So
Yeah.
and everyone thinks of different people groups or just when it comes to word diversity. So when I say diversity, who is the first group of people, so to speak, that comes to your mind or to your heart when I say diversity?
Um, I mean, I think that Black folks and disabled folks are the most underrepresented, or the least supported. Maybe not the least represented, but the least supported in general, systemically. And so I think by finding liberation for Black folks and disabled folks, that in turn will be collective liberation. And
Mhm.
it if we think about disability justice and anti-racism work first and foremost, like every other identity falls in line after that. So
Yes.
being a non-binary woman is part of my identity, but that's not like the most marginalized that one could be. I still hold lots of privileges, obviously, as a white person. So, um, yeah.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question?
It did. It really
Okay.
did. And I've heard that said before. I do believe that. And when we address anti-Black racism and systemic racism at that quote unquote level, there's this trickle down effect because
Mm-hmm.
if you are uncomfortable with that and that being a norm, then there's no way you can tolerate others being othered.
Yes. Yes,
Right.
absolutely. And um, it's important to bring that lens to your work no matter what you do. And it's important that studios and instructors make it known and say how you feel and be explicit about what you believe and your values. And I'm doing Sonia's decolonizing Pilates mentorship program, which is like the best.
Mm-hmm.
Love Sonia. Um, going through that was super helpful, super enlightening. It was really cool to be able to work out with different instructors. So she brought in Misty Lynn and Martin Fills and
Mm-hmm.
Coach Robin Renee, and and Sonia taught us a class, and then we read the book Do Better by Rachel Ricketts, and
Yes.
she came and spoke to us. So we had a conversation with her, which was really amazing, and
Amazing. Yeah.
it was really really cool. So I think no matter your experience in life, no matter your background, your education, if you are a white person and you're in the Pilates industry, you should 1,000% work with Sonia and not like kind of bypass and got
Yeah.
you. I mean, do whatever else you want to do any
Yes.
other kind of anti-racism education or whatever you want to do.
Mhm.
But I think that I don't think this. She is the expert in our industry in
Mhm.
this particular subject, and I think everyone should work with her.
I had a conversation. Well, she was on Core Conversations, and we're good friends. And one of the lines that came out of that conversation was, "Everyone is an activist."
Mm,
And hearing how you talk about Sonia, I agree. She's great. She's great content. She has great connections. And at the same time, I'm not going to say but, at the same time, everyone is an activist in their way. So I
hmm.
love the fact that there are people who will be on the front lines and calling people into the conversation, and there's others who have different ways of expressing it. And
Absolutely.
how are you an activist is a question I think everyone needs to ask themselves. What does
Yes.
that look like for you? What does that expression look like for you? Because some people will write articles, some people
Sure.
will challenge their loved ones, others will take an IG page and make a podcast, and others will what I mean, like it can have expression. Others can just use their platform and their resources to amplify other voices. All of these things are ways that we can be an activist. So the challenge that always comes whenever I talk to her or Misty or Christy King does a lot of great work too. You talk to these people and it's like you walk away from it. Okay, so what is my part? How am I an activist? And that's the question I like to ask people. Like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah. It is an important question to ask, and you're like 1,000% right. I agree. Everybody is different. Everybody does activism differently. But emphasis on the word active. Like,
Yes.
sure, you can go to as many workshops with Sonia as you want, which I
Mhm.
think that white folks absolutely should. But also mainly find those ways that activism works for you, not just like let these theories roll around in your head and like, well, theoretically, I'm
Yes.
not a racist, or, whatever it is, or I'm doing the work in my head. But actually, yeah, absolutely finding what works for you. Um, I do love like being in the streets, and not like I love it as in like, oh, it's a good time, but like, I like participating in that way. But it that doesn't always work for me. And so I
Mhm.
try to incorporate it into my life in ways like through Pilates. And because I came into Pilates from pole dancing, I kind of had a different perspective in that, like, um, pole dancing originates from a sex work. Pole
Yes.
dancing is, that's where it comes from. So it comes from a world of like subversion and,
Mhm.
like not really worrying about like what people think, but just expressing yourself and also like making a living
Yes.
from the origins of it. So when I came to Pilates and I saw like it felt very rigid and judgmental, and pole dancing has its own like political issues in and of itself. But like, I came into this and it just felt like very, very rigid and very sterile a lot of times, and
Okay.
like very compartmentalized.
Yes.
And that's not real life. Not, and
Life is more fluid.
life is more fluid, and everything is connected, and so you have to consider um, people's experiences when you're working with their bodies more than just like, do you have any injuries? you
Yeah.
know
Right.
you have to think beyond like, okay, cool, well, maybe we won't do a plank today because your wrist is hurting. Like, there can be a whole a whole life behind the whole person that is in
Yes.
front of you. So how I am active in my life, I have mutual aid built into my business. So $1 per person who comes to my online classes, I contribute to a mutual aid fund.
Amazing.
And just thank you, depending on, what's going on at the time. So, for example, when I first started, which was in January-ish, when Radical Movement first started, um, coincidentally, like that's when Sonia was launching her mentorship.
Yes.
So, she would present like, okay, here's an opportunity for you to be involved
To
in
contribute
mutual
and to
aid.
invest. Yes.
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 And so like I would say, okay, cool. That's where the money's going. Or, um, you know, if it's an organization, or like the Red Line Pilates teacher training program,
Yes.
or Keonti Wilson, who opened her own studio in New Orleans, like depending on like what is happening at the time, that's where the money will go. I'm the only person who is like running Radical Movement Pilates, so I make those choices.
Yes.
But I try to make them informed choices from like people
Fantastic.
that I look to guide me, like Sonia.
Yes. So right now you have online classes. Do you have any workshops or anything along those lines coming up as well?
I know,
Not yet.
but I, I like the idea of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I teach, let's see, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Sunday.
Mhm.
And I teach a variety of classes which are open to anyone who wants to join. Um, and it's pay what you choose, pay what you want. So in that way, I try to make the classes accessible financially. Um, and yeah.
Great. Very cool.
And I also, like I said, I also teach at East River Pilates on Tuesdays and Wednesday evenings as well. If you
Nice.
want to join me there.
Absolutely. Nice. We'll continue to cheer you on for
Thanks.
sure. And I'm gonna buy some
Thanks.
tea off you as well.
Yeah, I would be so happy to send you some tea, Martin.
Looked up. Thank you so much for your time. These go so fast. Like I looked up and it was like 10:47. I was like,
What?
okay, let's
Did we even talk about Pilates, Martin?
hardly. That's okay. I'm gonna have you back anyway, so I'd love to continue these
Okay.
conversations. So,
Yeah, I would love that. I would love
mhm.
that.
Thank
And
you to everyone as well, yeah, who joined us. Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
that's exactly what I was gonna say. Thank you everybody for coming and thank you for the invitation, Martin. It's awesome to be a part of the conversation and be invited, like everybody, like I think you and Mickey were saying yesterday, like everybody loves it, like cheerleader, everybody needs a cheerleader, like, everybody likes to be invited and I like really appreciate it.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I appreciate you appreciating it.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, totally.
All right. I will send you the replay of this later. Thank you so much. And once again, thank you to everyone who joined us.
Thank you.
Yes. Thanks, Joel. All right. Take care. Signing off now.